Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. Liverpool 4, Newcastle 2, and Liverpool stay top of the Premier League. But what a start to 2024. A contrasting start though. We'll talk about Newcastle in a minute. They're in big trouble. They've got tough games to come. They're approaching mid-table. How long is that acceptable? Can they do any business in the January transfer window? But Liverpool, well, look, I don't think many Liverpool fans would have thought this would be the case on New Year's Day back in August, that they would be top of the league by 3 points, and deservedly so. But I start with the match stats. Unbelievable. 34 shots. That's the most anybody's had in the Premier League this season. And also 15 shots on target, 4-2. They had an XG, expected goals of 7. You know what? Liverpool scored 4 goals. It easily could have been 7. I thought Dubravka was probably Newcastle's man of the match. There was loads of blocks. There's talk about, was it a penalty on Jota? Was it a penalty on Diaz? I think at the end of the day, if you want to moan about VAR and you want to moan about decisions, crack on. I find it a little bit futile, if I'm being honest, because it's not like Newcastle deserved a point. Liverpool, look at those stats. Liverpool should have won that game by 7 or 8. The fact that they scored with a penalty that maybe wasn't a penalty, the penalty that the other one they missed anyway, they had enough chances to win that game, and I think it would have been a huge injustice on Liverpool's part if they hadn't won it. Fair play to Newcastle for getting a couple of goals and making it interesting, because on another day it could have been 8-0, and I think that's just the contrast between the two teams at the moment. And I think Newcastle are a side that really last season did well playing 1 game a week, but haven't got the squad to play 2 games a week. And we've seen that. Injuries, tiredness, lost to Forest last week, losing to Liverpool. They're just not at the level they need to be, organisational-wise and sharpness-wise. Whereas Liverpool, you look at the options, you can take off Diaz and Nunez and bring on Jota and Gakpo. They've got Endo, McAllister, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott in the midfield. They've got so many options to freshen things up. And the one thing I would say about Liverpool is, can they win the league? Look at the league table. 3 points clear from Aston Villa with 20 games played. Of course, when Man City win that game in hand, they'll only be 2 points off the top, and Man City have to be the favourites. De Bruyne is coming back. They've won the treble. They're going for 4 titles in a row. Man City will still be hot favourites, of course. But I would say, to Liverpool's credit, if they had Harry Kane up front, or Erling Haaland up front, I think they'd win the league. I think this league title probably is going to come down to scoring your chances. Liverpool against Manchester United, 0-0, had 34 shots, 0-0. Liverpool against Arsenal should have won, 1-1. So that's 4 points they've dropped. They should have another 4 points, really, if we're being honest. And they don't, because... And it was 0-0 at half-time. This game was 0-0 at half-time. 6 goals in the second half. So Liverpool need to be more clinical with their chances. I watched them play against Luton. That was 2 points dropped as well. And then they've had the VAR stuff. So you could look at... It's incredible, actually. I certainly think they should have beat Arsenal. They probably should have beat Man United. They should have beat Luton. That's 6 points. Then you've got the dodgy Spurs game, where they would have had another point or so. Liverpool easily could have another 5-6 points if we're being conservative, and then they're way ahead. So, yeah, I just think that it's going to be a fascinating season. I'd still put Man City as the favourites, but Liverpool... I think the interesting thing about Liverpool is, and I was ahead of the game, we were ahead of the game, we spoke about it on Goldbridge Saves Football back in August, the podcast, and I said, what Klopp has done with that midfield is nothing short of a miracle, really. I've seen so many teams who transition. I've seen so many Sir Alex Ferguson teams who transition. And to change an entire midfield in 2 months is incredible. But he's not only done that. Fabinho, Henderson, Thiago gone, or Thiago I think is injured. But it's the combinations he can play. I mean, that Endo has been magnificent. McAllister has been magnificent. Gravenberch, therefore, can just grow into his Liverpool career. Szoboszlai's been good, but, fell off a little bit lately. But then you've got Curtis Jones. You've got Harvey Elliott. 6 players there for 3 positions. All the rotations you've got there. All the different combinations. Gakpo can play in there as well. So he's got so many options. And I mentioned this about Arsenal yesterday. Declan Rice gets injured, you're in trouble. And Arteta's playing Rice, Havertz and Odegaard. It's not balanced. Arsenal haven't got a lot of depth in the midfield. Liverpool have. Liverpool have got the depth. And I think to do that in one summer, Jurgen Klopp's already one of the greatest managers in the Premier League and in the world, but doesn't mean you can't give him credit for what he's done. And I think the scary thing about Liverpool is that they've got so... Somebody said to me, what should Liverpool do in the January transfer window? And I said, well, you know what? I don't want you to do anything because I support Man United, but I actually don't think you should. I don't think you should. I don't know whether they are, but... And if they do, you're just adding quality to a quality team. But look, some people might say, well, we need to buy a striker, but you're not going to buy Victor Osimhen. You're not going to buy Harry Kane. So what sort of striker are you going to buy? I think with Liverpool, you keep the players and options that you've got, and in the next 12 months, 6 months, 12 months, you'll know how many of these players are Liverpool players. Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, Szoboszlai, Endo, McAllister, Nunez, Gakpo. You know, there are more. There are players, they're all players that you're sort of like, don't know. Yeah, they look good. Will they become Liverpool players, or will they become players that you need to replace? And I think Liverpool, therefore, for me, I don't think Liverpool glaringly need to bring a player in January. I think, and it can be dangerous to do that because you might upset the balance. I think for Liverpool, they're growing as a team. And that's the scary thing. They're growing as a team, and there's so many players that can get better, and yet they're top of the league on New Year's Day, halfway through the league. So, yeah, be very interesting. For Newcastle, I worry. I worry about them. I really do. Man City up next in the league. Sunderland in the FA Cup away. They're 6th in the Championship. If they get beat by Sunderland, their season's over. Like, the Cup is all they've got. They're not going to get top 4. I don't think they're going to get top 5, and I don't think they're going to get top 6. Man City and Villa next. I think they'll lose both of those. The Sunderland game is obviously next in the Cup. By the end of January, they could be out of the top half of the table. And Eddie Howe's done a great job at Newcastle, and I think that they will get better at some point because they're a better team than what they are at the moment. But they're a tired team, and mentally they're tired, and I think it will play on their minds being out of the top half of the table. They've got to be active in the January transfer window. I know Dubravka did well today, but even bringing in someone like De Gea, big influence in the dressing room, better goalkeeper than Dubravka, maybe a couple of loan deals from Saudi. They've got to start doing something because their season isn't just drifting, it's sinking. And when you've got owners like Saudi Arabia and you've been in the Champions League, you can't go from 4th to mid-table and go, it's okay. Like, you've got to progress, and they're not progressing at the moment. And there are mitigating circumstances, but I don't know why people like Chelsea, Man United, Newcastle, Spurs didn't expect injury problems this year. It was always going to happen. So Newcastle needs some players desperately, and they've got a very, very difficult January. Anyway, get your comments in below. Do you think Liverpool are now favourites for the title? Do you think it's just, wait and see? What are your thoughts on Newcastle? Where are they going to end up, and what does that mean for their future? Do you think Eddie Howe will end up in danger this season? Let us know in the comments below. And do you think Liverpool need to do anything in the January transfer window? And Newcastle. Get your comments in. Smash a like, subscribe. I'll speak to you on the next one.